stop. That tired you feel. It's not normal. Seriously, ever walk in the door after work and feel wrecked? Like you ran a marathon, but you literally just sat at a desk? That heavy chest? That soul-drained sleep can't fix. Let's talk about why your body's screaming even when you haven't lifted a finger. And no, it's not the grind. We're calling that out. You know that feeling when you drag your keys across the counter and just collapse? Not the good kind of tired where you earned it. The kind where your chest feels like you're carrying bricks, even though you didn't move a muscle all day. Most folks chalk this up to adulting or the hustle. But here's the hard truth. This isn't work. It's a silent alarm blaring in your gut. Your body's way of whispering, you're stuck in something toxic. See, healthy challenges leave you sore but satisfied, like that post-workout glow. Toxicity? It's like an invisible leech draining you dry. You're not building muscle, you're losing blood. And the worst part, it's sneaky. People wait for explosions, the yelling, the slamming doors. But the real killer is quiet. It's the slow drip of your energy being siphoned off while you tell yourself it's just stress. That heaviness in your chest, that's your nervous system in permanent fight-or-flight mode. You're burning high-octane fuel just to sit still. This isn't a rough patch, it's structural rot. And here's where we trip up. We wait for a smoking gun, a massive betrayal, to bail. But by then, the damage is already done. Your exhaustion is the evidence. You don't need a grand finale to know the water's poisoned. Ever catch yourself dreading your own office chair or dinner table more than a root canal? That's your gut screaming. Why do you feel hollow while they seem energized? Because this isn't a 50-50 relationship. It's a one-way energy drain. You're not a partner. You're fuel. They take your time, your validation, your emotional labor to prop up their fragile ego. Test it. Pull back your energy. Notice how your silence suddenly becomes selfishness. That's the trap. They demand your output as a right, but treat your needs like inconveniences. When they have a problem, it is a global crisis that you must extinguish immediately. When you have a problem, it is a distraction they do not have time for. You catch the shift. You tell yourself your sacrifice is noble. You think, if you just give a little more, they will finally see your value. This is the cognitive dissonance screaming at you. You are not being noble. You are being consumed. You are merely the coal thrown into the furnace of a toxic machine. The machine does not care about the coal. It only cares that it keeps burning. If you identify this imbalance, stop hoping for it to change. You are already in the danger zone. The math will never work in your favor because the equation was rigged before you even stepped into the room. But here is where the trap is set. While they are draining your resources, they are simultaneously stealing something far more valuable than your time. This brings us to a secret, even more dangerous. The third sign is not about what you give. It is about what is being taken from you, without you even noticing. But here is where the trap is set. You might be tracking the time you lose, or the energy you waste. But you are likely missing the most dangerous extraction of all. This brings us to the third warning sign, and it is the most lethal because it is invisible until the damage is done. This is the confidence heist. Understand the mechanics of control. A confident partner is a threat. A confident partner has boundaries. A confident partner can walk away. Therefore, for a manipulator to maintain total dominance, they cannot simply rule over you. They must systematically dismantle your belief in yourself. They know that if you remain independent, you are uncontrollable. So they begin a project of architectural demolition on your psyche. It does not start with shouting. It does not start with insults. It begins with the subtle erosion of your reality. They push you out of your comfort zone, but not to help you grow. There is a critical difference you must learn to spot. A true mentor or a healthy partner pushes you into the unknown to expand your competence. They want you stronger. A toxic partner pushes you into the unknown to destabilize you. They want you off balance. They tilt the floor beneath your feet so that gravity pulls you toward them. They create a world where you must hold on to them, just to stay upright. This is the manipulator's power dynamic. It is a strategic, intentional erosion of your self-worth to manufacture reliance. They question your memory of events. They make jokes about your intelligence in front of others. They rewrite history 5 minutes after it happens. Suddenly, you stop trusting your own eyes. You stop trusting your own judgment. And once you doubt your own mind, you have no choice but to rely on theirs. Most people never notice this shift until it is too late. They think they are just having a bad month or feeling insecure. They think they are the problem. Stop and realize what this actually means for your future. You are not losing your mind. You are not just being sensitive. You are being psychologically stripped for parts. They are harvesting your autonomy to fuel their authority. And once your confidence is gone, you are no longer a partner. You are a possession. And this brings us to a secret even more dangerous. Because once they have stolen your confidence, they trigger a psychological mechanism that locks the cage door from the inside. You might believe the erosion of your confidence is just an unfortunate accident, a sad byproduct of a bad match or a difficult season. You would be wrong. It is the architect's design. The psychology of reliance is not a side effect. It is the primary objective. Think about it. A confident person leaves when they are mistreated. A self-assured person draws boundaries. So, to keep you, the toxic operator must first disable your ability to leave. They must amputate your autonomy. Why would someone want a broken partner? Because a broken partner does not leave. This is about control, pure and simple. Once you no longer trust your own perception of reality, a vacuum is created. And nature abhors a vacuum. You must outsource your judgment. This is the critical shift where you lose yourself. You stop asking yourself what is true. You start looking to them to define the truth for you. You become a proxy for their ego. Connect this directly to the red flag of constant blaming. If every argument ends with you apologizing, your internal compass is being demagnetized. You begin to believe you are incapable of navigating the world without their guidance. You fear making decisions because you have been conditioned to believe your decisions are always wrong. You freeze. You wait for instructions. Now, let us strip away the emotion and look at this clinically. We need to distinguish between healthy reliance and toxic parasitism. In a functional relationship, reliance is reciprocal. If you stumble, a true ally helps you regain your balance so you can walk on your own again. They want you strong. They want you capable. They lend you their strength temporarily, but the goal is always your independence. A toxic operator does the exact opposite. They exploit your weakness to ensure you never stand up. They do not help you regain your balance. They convince you that your legs are broken. They offer to carry you, not out of kindness, but to ensure you cannot walk away. They manufacture crises where they are the only solution. They nurture your insecurity, because your insecurity is their security. Pivot back to the reality of your situation. Do not confuse this dependency with intimacy. It is not closeness, it is containment. This is not love, it is a hostage situation disguised as a relationship. And once you are locked in, once you are fully reliant, they feel safe enough to reveal the fourth warning sign. This is where the emotional violence becomes systematic. But here is where the trap is set. You are likely scanning the horizon for a massive betrayal or an explosion of anger to prove you are in danger. You are looking for a smoking gun. But the real killer is the lead in the water. This brings us to the fourth warning sign, and it is the one that catches almost everyone off guard. The principle of consistent harm. Most people operate under a delusion. They believe that unless there is a catastrophic event, the relationship is sustainable. This is false. Toxicity is defined by frequency and duration, not just intensity. You might be waiting for a single moment of violence or cruelty to justify leaving, but while you wait, you are slowly dying by 1,000 cuts. Consider the daily reality of your interactions. This is the drip feed of poison you have learned to tolerate. The passive-aggressive remark about your appearance, the subtle dismissal of your ambition, the jokes that always seem to target your insecurities. You brush these off. You tell yourself they are small, but look at the data. If these moments happen daily, they are not accidents. They are a system. You must shatter the single event fallacy. If you feel drained, anxious, or small for 51% of the time you spend with this person, the relationship is functionally toxic. It does not matter if the other 49% feels like paradise. The mathematics of misery do not lie. Now, you will try to defend them. You will say they do not mean to hurt you. You will say they are just stressed, or they had a bad childhood. Stop. Intent is irrelevant. If someone is feeding you small doses of arsenic every morning, it does not matter if they do it with a smile. It does not matter if they love you. The arsenic accumulates in your blood all the same. Your body knows the truth even if your mind refuses to accept it. When the harm is consistent, your nervous system remains in a chronic state of high alert. Your cortisol spikes, your digestion fails, your sleep suffers. You are not just emotionally unhappy. You are under biological siege. This is not a rough patch. This is a threat to your survival. And once you realize the harm is consistent, you are forced to ask a much harder question. What happens when the toxicity isn't just coming from them, but is being generated between you? And this brings us to a secret even more dangerous. But here is where the trap is set. You are looking for a villain to blame. You want the story to be simple. One bad actor, one innocent victim. But real toxicity is rarely that clean. This next warning sign is the one you will want to reject the most because it implicates you. We call this the dual role trap. Consider the dynamic of a mutually abusive couple. The record shows this pattern playing out in millions of homes. A husband and wife engage in vicious shouting matches. They say things designed to cripple the other person emotionally. There is no physical violence, but the intent is destruction. In this scenario, who is the victim, and who is the victimizer? The answer is both. They have created a closed loop of destruction where they feed off each other's worst impulses. This challenges the fantasy that you are merely a bystander in your own suffering. If you are in a toxic relationship, you are participating in the toxicity. This is invisible to those who are not looking for it. You tell yourself you are only screaming because they screamed first. You justify your cruelty as self-defense. But look closer. Toxicity is a mirror. If you stand in front of it long enough, you start to reflect what you see. You cannot remain a saint in hell. You adapt. You pick up the weapons of the enemy to survive. You start lying because they lie. You start manipulating because they manipulate. You think you are fighting fire with fire, but you are just burning down your own house. Identifying yourself as a contributor does not excuse the other person. It does not make their actions right. It simply confirms that the entire ecosystem is poisoned. The water itself is bad. Stop and realize what this actually means for your future. You are not immune to influence. You are being rewritten by this environment. The longer you stay, the more you resemble the person you hate. You are losing your identity to the conflict. This is the danger of the mutual toxicity trap. It is not just that you are being hurt, it is that you are being changed. And once that change takes root, it is incredibly difficult to reverse. You are not just losing your peace, you are losing your character. Most people make a fatal calculation here. You think these laws only apply to romantic entanglements. You compartmentalize. You believe the rules of power change when you swipe a key card or log into a server. They do not. The predator does not care if they share your bed or sign your paycheck. The mechanism of extraction is identical. Consider the concept of the emotional marathon. This is the test. Imagine coming home at 6 o'clock. You are not just physically tired, you are absolutely spent. You feel hollowed out, as if you have run 26 miles at a sprint, even if you sat in a chair all day. You need to distinguish this sensation immediately. Hard work offers resistance, yes, but hard work gives you purpose. It offers a return on investment. When you build something real, you feel fatigue, but you also feel satisfaction. Toxic work is different. It yields nothing but a desperate desire to be anywhere else. You would literally prefer a root canal to walking back into that office. That is not an exaggeration. That is your nervous system screaming that you are in a hostile environment. Look at your colleagues. Look at your superiors. Apply the warning signs we have just uncovered. Do you see the public humiliation masquerading as constructive feedback? Do you see the credit theft, where your ideas become theirs the moment they succeed? Watch the goalposts. In a toxic architecture, the target never sits still. Just when you meet the quota, the metric shifts. You are running a race that has been rigged to ensure you never actually win. But here is where the trap is set. And this is the part most people are too afraid to see. If you tolerate this behavior for 8 hours a day, you are conditioning yourself. You are training your brain to accept abuse as the cost of survival. You cannot turn this off when you clock out. You are practicing submission. You are practicing silence. And eventually, you will carry that tolerance home. If you allow a boss to drain you, you will allow a partner to drain you. The wall between work and life is an illusion. You are either free or you are food. There is no middle ground. You have to recognize these patterns before they rewrite your personality. We are done with abstraction. Now we build your defense system. You need to operationalize these concepts into a weapon you can hold in your hand. We call this the red flag checklist. Do not treat this lightly. Most people wait for a disaster to realize they are in trouble. You are going to spot the trap before it snaps shut. I am going to list specific behaviors rapidly. Do not analyze them yet, just react. First is excessive control disguised as concern. It starts small, checking your phone, asking where you are every hour, demanding passwords under the guise of transparency. This is not intimacy. It is surveillance. They are mapping your movements to shrink your world until the only thing left in it is them. Next comes the isolation protocol. They slowly sever your ties to the outside world. Your friends are suddenly labeled as bad influences. Your family is accused of not respecting the relationship. This is a classic siege tactic. By cutting your supply lines to reality, the toxic partner becomes your only source of truth. You lose your baseline for what is normal. Then comes the most insidious tactic of all, historical revisionism. Watch for this carefully. A toxic partner will archive your past mistakes. They keep a catalogue of every error you have ever made. Why do they do this? To weaponize them against your present confidence. You try to set a boundary today, and they immediately bring up a failure from 3 years ago. They use your history to invalidate your current reality. It paralyzes you. It forces you to defend who you were, rather than asserting who you are. It creates a debt you can never pay off, because they control the ledger. Stop calling these personality quirks. Stop saying they are just insecure or passionate. That is a lie you tell yourself to avoid the hard truth. These are not flaws. They are calculated maneuvers in the manipulator's power dynamic. They are designed to erode your autonomy and install a control panel in your mind. Here is your task right now. Mentally tick these off as I speak. Control, isolation, deeply held grudges used as ammunition. If you hit one, stay alert. If you hit two, prepare your exit strategies. But if you recognize 3 of these behaviors in your daily life, you are in immediate danger. You are not building a future. You are managing a disaster. You are living in a combat zone without armor. But even these obvious signs can be ignored if you try hard enough. The real danger lies in the silence that follows. Most people assume toxicity requires volume. They look for the raised voice, the shattered glass, or the slammed door. But here is the truth that separates the masters of psychology from the victims. The most dangerous warfare is quiet. You might be telling yourself that at least you do not fight. That is a fatal error. The absence of conflict is not the presence of peace. It is often the presence of a cold war. We are talking about passive aggression. This is not just annoying behavior. It is a calculated strategy of emotional attrition. Think about the microaggressions you brush off every day. The heavy sigh released the exact second you start speaking about your day. It is a signal of contempt that leaves no transcript. Or consider the backhanded compliment that lands like praise but rots like an insult. They might say, "I love how you are brave enough to wear just anything." It is designed to keep you off balance. Then there is the weaponized silence. The text message left on read for 6 hours, while you know they are online. They are not busy. They are training you. They are teaching you to be anxious, to beg for their attention, to wonder what you did wrong. Why do they use this? Because it grants them total immunity. This is the brilliance of the trap. If you react to a punch, you are a victim. But if you react to a sigh, or a pause, or a joke, you are the aggressor. You are the one being difficult. You are the one who is supposedly too sensitive. They provoke the reaction, then blame you for reacting. It makes you look crazy to the outside world, and eventually it makes you feel crazy inside your own head. This is invisible to those who are not looking for it, but you need to see it for what it is. It is gaslighting. It is a systematic way to erode your confidence without ever firing a single shot. You begin to doubt your own perception of reality. You start apologizing for things you did not do. You work harder to please them, just to avoid the punishing silence. The silence is not empty. It is heavy. It is weaponized. Stop and realize what this actually means for your future. If you stay, you lose your voice. You lose your ability to trust your gut. And this silence is usually the precursor to a much larger displacement. Because once they know you will tolerate the quiet abuse, they know they can take away your comfort entirely. The silence is often more violent than the noise. And this brings us to a secret even more dangerous. You have been told a lie. The modern world loves to scream that growth only happens outside your comfort zone. You see it on motivational posters and hear it from self-help gurus. But here is where the trap is set. In the hands of a manipulator, this universal truth becomes a weapon. This brings us to the fifth and perhaps most insidious warning sign. The comfort zone displacement. Most people never notice this shift until it is too late. A toxic partner will push you. They will tell you that you are playing it safe. They will accuse you of being stagnant or boring. They demand you be more adventurous, more open, more willing to take risks. On the surface, it looks like support. It mimics the behavior of a mentor or a loving partner, challenging you to evolve. But look closer at the direction of the push. Are they encouraging you to pursue your specific ambitions, or are they forcing you into situations that strictly feed their ego and their desires? There is a critical difference between expansion and displacement. A healthy partner stands behind you as you step into the unknown. A toxic partner shoves you into the deep end and watches you struggle. This is not about your growth. This is about your disorientation. Here is the mechanics of the psychological heist. They are dismantling your home base. By making you feel inadequate or anxious in your natural state, they render the real world hostile. When you are constantly off balance, stripped of your familiar routines and boundaries, you instinctively look for something stable to hold on to. And guess who is waiting there? They isolate you in a new reality, where they are the only anchor. By making you uncomfortable everywhere else, they make their toxic proximity the only place that feels safe. This is how they manufacture dependency. Your comfort zone is not a weakness to be eradicated. It is a boundary. It is the perimeter of your mental safety. When someone crosses that line repeatedly without your consent, do not call it encouragement. Call it what it is. An act of aggression. Stop and realize what this actually means for your future. You think they are trying to help you fly. But the record shows a brutal truth. They are clipping your wings while telling you to jump. They are not expanding your horizons. They are shrinking your cage. But this brings us to a secret even more dangerous. A blind spot so large that 90% of people refuse to look at it, even when it is staring them in the face. What happens when the toxicity isn't coming from them? What happens when the source of the poison is you? You have spent this entire time analyzing someone else. You have been ticking boxes in your mind. Blame, control, emotional theft, You see their face in every warning sign I have laid out. But here is where the trap is set. The most dangerous blind spot is not what you fail to see in them. It is what you refuse to see in yourself. Consider the mirror check. It is the moment the investigator realizes they are the suspect. Go back through the list. Who is actually keeping the scorecard of past mistakes? Who is leveraging guilt to get their way? Who is demanding total compliance because they feel internally chaotic? If you are brutally honest, the face staring back at you in the mirror might not be the victim. It might be the architect of the toxicity. This is a violent realization. Your ego will fight it. It will scream that you are only reacting to their madness, that you are justified. But history shows us a brutal truth. In prolonged warfare, you pick up the enemy's tactics because they are effective. You become the villain just to survive the environment. You mirror the aggression. You replicate the manipulation. This is how the cycle feeds itself. You justify your cruelty as self-defense. But to the outside observer, the damage looks exactly the same. Let me shift gears here and offer you some clarity. This does not make you a monster. It makes you human. And more importantly, it makes you infected. Toxicity is a contagion. If you live in a radioactive zone long enough, you become radioactive. You start emitting the very poison you hate. You are not broken. You have simply adapted to a sick environment. Recognizing this is not an admission of defeat. It is the cure. Most people never take this step. They prefer the comfort of being the victim because it absolves them of responsibility. But you are not most people. You are looking for the exit ramp. And here it is. You cannot change them. You can scream, beg, and negotiate, but you cannot rewrite their psychology. You can only control your own output. The moment you stop participating in the toxic dynamic, the dynamic collapses. It requires two players to sustain the game. This realization separates the masters from the martyrs. It takes immense strength to admit you are the one holding the match. But once you blow it out, the fire dies. And this brings us to a critical distinction you must understand before you make your final move. Let us pause the intensity for a moment and look at this with cold, hard logic. Because I know what your brain is doing right now. It is rationalizing. You are telling yourself that relationships are hard work. You are thinking about that old cliché that love is a battlefield. That is a dangerous lie, designed to keep you compliant. We need to make a critical distinction before we move forward. You must learn the difference between a difficult season and a toxic ecosystem. Mixing these up is fatal. Think of the difference between the uphill climb and the emotional marathon. The uphill climb is grueling. Your legs burn. You are short of breath. The weight is heavy. But with every step, you are gaining altitude. You are building muscle. You are moving toward a summit. That is a difficult relationship. It demands effort, but it yields progress. Now contrast that with the emotional marathon. You are running until your lungs bleed. You are exhausted, but you never move forward. You are running on a treadmill of chaos. This drains you to death. It yields nothing but fatigue. The unique insight here is simple. The differentiator is not the fight itself. It is the result of the fight. Does the struggle lead to resolution, or does it lead to repetition? This is invisible to those who are not looking. In a viable relationship, conflict is a tool for repair. You argue, you negotiate, and you solve the issue. The problem goes away. But in a toxic bond, the conflict is circular. Toxicity is the refusal to repair. It is the cycle where the same issue returns every single week, dressed in different words. Consistent harm makes growth impossible. You cannot build a foundation when the ground beneath you is constantly shifting. So here is your litmus test. Use this the next time the shouting stops. When the dust settles, ask yourself one question. Do you feel closer to them, or do you just feel safe for now? Real resolution creates safety. It builds trust. You feel that the team is stronger. Toxic resolution is just a ceasefire. You do not feel closer. You feel relieved that the punishment has stopped. If you do not feel safer after the fight, you are not growing. You are being hunted. And if you refuse to see this distinction, the price you pay goes beyond just your mood. It starts to eat away at your very existence. Most people make a fatal calculations here. You weigh the pain of leaving against the comfort of familiarity. You worry about loneliness. But you are looking at the wrong ledger. This is not about your relationship status. This is about your timeline. The existential cost of ignoring these warning signs is not sadness. It is time. And time is the one asset you can never recover. Consider the biological reality of the silent drain. This is not metaphorical. Chronic stress from walking on eggshells shortens your telomeres. It literally accelerates your aging process. It degrades your cognitive function. You are becoming slower, duller, and weaker because your body is in a constant state of siege. You are trading your physical health to sustain a dynamic that is designed to consume you. This brings us back to the principle of consistent harm. View it now through the lens of a lifespan. If you spend 5 years managing someone else's volatility, you have not just lost 5 years. You have lost the compound interest of what those 5 years could have built. You are taking your finite time on Earth and pouring it into a black hole. You are servicing a manipulator's pathology. You are the fuel they burn to feel powerful. And when you are used up, you are discarded. The danger is that you adapt. You get used to the weight. You normalize the misery. That is the trap. You think you have time to fix it. You think if you just explain yourself one more time, the exchange imbalance will correct itself. It will not. The manipulator relies on your hope. Your hope is their weapon. It keeps you locked in an emotional marathon where the finish line keeps moving away from you. Every morning you wake up in this environment is a day deleted from your potential. It is a day you are not building your legacy. It is a day you are not finding peace. It is a day you are not truly alive. The ultimate cost here is not a broken heart. Hearts heal. The ultimate cost is a wasted life. A life spent as a supporting character in someone else's tragedy. You have to ask yourself if the person you are serving is worth the price of your existence. Because the bill is coming due. And you are paying with years you do not have to spare. You have reached the point of no return. The ignorance that once shielded you is gone. You can no longer pretend that the exhaustion you feel is just normal life. You now recognize it as the silent drain. You can no longer view one-sided devotion as bad luck. You see the exchange imbalance for the calculated theft that it is. The confidence heist is no longer a mystery to you. It is a crime scene you have finally learned to investigate. You see the principle of consistent harm, not as a series of unfortunate accidents, but as a deliberate architecture designed to keep you small. And perhaps most painfully, you have looked in the mirror and recognized the role you played in your own comfort zone displacement. This is the irreversible shift I promised you. You cannot unsee these patterns. You are now awake in a world where most people are sleepwalking through their own destruction. This clarity is heavy because it demands action. You can no longer stay in a toxic dynamic and call it loyalty. You can only call it a choice. But here is the secret to true mastery. Real power does not look like a dramatic explosion. It does not look like a screaming match or a chaotic exit. That is what the toxic dynamic wants. It feeds on your reaction. It craves your emotional noise. If you scream, you are still playing their game. True mastery is silence. It is calm dominance. It is the moment you realize the table is rigged, so you simply stand up and leave the casino. You stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop trying to repair a machine that is designed to grind you down. You reclaim your energy, not by fighting for it, but by refusing to give it away. So take this knowledge. Do not let it sit in your mind as just another theory. Audit your life immediately. Tonight, look at the notifications on your phone. Look at the person across the dinner table. Look at the structure of your career. Apply the lens. If the signs are there, acknowledge them. Do not wait for them to change. Do not wait for an apology that will never come. Waiting for closure is just another trap to keep you engaged. The lock is broken. The door is unlatched. It always has been. The only person who can open the cage is the one who finally realizes they are in it.